The First Man to Time Travel. Written and read by Alex Leam. Chapter 1. Dr. Gavin Dawes worked for an organisation like no other. It was an agency that policed time travel. He belonged to the Federal Bureau for Accounting and Monitoring Time Travel and its Effects. After he completed his history doctorate and 2 years of field training, the agency sent him on his one and only field assignment, the result of which landed him a 6-month spell in the White Room on admin duty. The left-hand side of the desk he was working at had a stack of files in his in-tray that he swore hadn't gotten any smaller, no matter how hard he worked. He reached over and took another field report from the top of the pile that needed logging. He read the opening question. After the device was discharged on London Road, did/do any civilians need a memory wipe? If already completed, please detail your methods. He glanced at the question number. This was question 1 of 796. He then noticed the date on the form. It was forward dated to 2 years from now. 2 years? He groaned. He was now getting admin from the future. He hated being stuck behind a desk. Day in and day out there was a never-ending schedule of deeply dull paperwork to wade through. This wasn't him. Admin? Nah, he was a man of action. Probably. The only action he saw was on his maiden mission. The agency sent him back to Canada in 1941 to monitor the reopening of the South Fork Bridge. He was beyond excited to finally get out in the field and prove himself. So excited, in fact, he skipped 2 vital parts of his training. Both parts were covered in depth in Fieldcraft 101, the gist of which was to blend in, meaning he had to take a trip to the vast wardrobe the agency had to outfit himself with time-appropriate clothing and belongings. The agency had clothing to fit all sizes, ages, genders, and to suit every time period. The clothing archive was so vast it crossed 2 time zones. It also boasted an accessory range that could have filled a Spanish island. Anything you could want to make it look like you belonged to the time you were going to, from bowler hats to era-specific mobile phones, silver dollars to Roman coins, time-specific watches to anti-gravity running shoes. However, the process of getting anything out of the continent-crossing wardrobe took forever. The agency argued that the system they had in place to procure anything from the wardrobe could be streamlined and made more efficient thanks to time travel. You could, for example, file what you really needed for your mission after you got back from it, nip back to the past to drop off the paperwork, and hey presto, what you need, and nothing more, would be delivered to your desk within hours of you going out on your mission. The bonus of this being that the agency could save money and the staff could be cut. Problem was, they cut the staff a bit too far, and the entire wardrobe was now run by just one woman, an overworked and perpetually stressed woman named Karen. Karen did all the paperwork, did all the picking and packing and deliveries. She also catalogued all of the items returned and took them back. It didn't take long for the agency to realise that one woman in charge of the wardrobe was a massive mistake, but they didn't admit it. They were far too proud, bordering on arrogant to show any form of weakness or admit that they'd made a mistake. So they stuck with just one woman and told the agents any delays were due to bad planning on their part and nothing to do with them, thus skillfully absolving themselves from any blame. The inevitable delays were starting to push Karen's stress levels to the limit. Her complaints to management that there wasn't enough hours in the day were addressed by her immediate superior, who took no time at all to match her up with some special medication from the agency's pharmaceutical department called Noxidormai, which, after a week's worth of taking, completely eliminated the user's need for sleep. Karen could now work a 7-day week flat out with no sleep. She was already halfway through a 168-hour shift with no breaks when nothing was going right when she got the irate message from Gavin. Karen had so many angry messages from agents wanting the Earth and wanting it yesterday that she honestly didn't care anymore, which was why the entrance to the wardrobe had the cheerful sign on the inquiries desk that greeted everyone that said, "Bad planning on your part does not mean an emergency on my part." She was catching a flight to distribution from the subcontinent of shoes. having picked up the sandals for the nativity, when she got a curt text message from Gavin wanting to know where his stuff was as he was going out that afternoon. Karen had the form on her desk that Gavin filed 2 months ago, but she was forever fetching stuff and never at her desk. So, as she was beyond breaking point, she turned her phone off as the automated pilotless plane taxied along the runway and gleefully thought that Gavin could go get shagged. This was tricky. He didn't have the right clothes, but it was a simple one-day mission, plus the clothes he was in wouldn't stick out that much, right? He threw caution to the wind and went for it, and took his phone just in case. The mission went perfectly. The bridge reopened without a hitch. Nobody batted an eyelid about his clothes, and no enemies of the agency attempted to disrupt anything. Everyone seemed happy, including the reporter from the local newspaper. Thanks to his wraparound shades, Gavin didn't see the flash of the camera bulb as he was nestled in the crowd. But the camera caught him, looking massively out of place around the suits and hats in his t-shirt, sunglasses and zip-up hoodie, holding his iPhone. The photo went undiscovered for 80 years until a website in 2014 found it and ran with the story, "Is this man a time-travelling hipster?" It was meant as a joke article. As far as they were aware, there was no such thing as time travel. But Gavin was rumbled. He had broken the rules about blending in. The boss of the agency was waiting for him the instant he got back. Which is why Gavin was given an admin job as punishment duty. A dull admin job would have been just bordering on unbearable if it were in a regular office, but he was in the White Room. The White Room was the nickname given to the agency's panic room, as everything in its sparse interior was white. White walls, white ceiling, white floor, no windows, blinding strip lighting, just a white desk, a white Bakelite phone that could call anywhere in time and space, a white computer on a secure server, and a kitchenette with a year's worth of non-perishable rations, which was joined by a single-berth living quarters. The only item in the room which possessed any colour was the red emergency light that flashed when there was an emergency. But the bulb was broken. Not that the panic room ever got used for a panic in its 1,190-year history, as thanks to the nature of the agency's work, they were never caught off guard. So it found a new use. Punishment duty. Any agent who broke the rules of the Bureau would be sentenced to live and work in the White Room for a period of time determined by the boss, who had final say on all matters of discipline and procedure. Gavin had been sealed in, living and working in here for the last 5.5 months, and he hated every bit of it. But thankfully, today was his last day. Sort of. His main duties over the past 5.5 months was providing admin support for the boss's final field mission before she hit retirement. It was the most prestigious mission in the agency's history, protecting the first man to time travel and protecting the discovery of the secrets of time travel so they couldn't be misused. Many volumes have been written about the first man and the discovery, the events that took place so long ago and also currently on the White Room's mission clock in front of Gavin's desk have been theorised and debated many times, as had the exterior agencies who wanted to steal the secrets of sophisticated time travel. The agencies themselves had the ability to travel in time, but the methods were very crude and ineffective by comparison. The agency had a Lamborghini, everyone else had a push bike, with 2 flat tyres and no brakes. Most missions caused paperwork, but this one was the mother lode. Everything was happening on this mission, and everything required paperwork. If it wasn't attempted theft of the Bureau's secrets, then it was the attempted murder of the first man. Many believe that the accident that caused the first man to go back in time 20 years, which the Bureau went to great lengths to ensure happened as planned, was a bad thing and would lead to the destruction of life as we know it. So Gavin had to catalogue and file every botched assassination attempt that happened and would keep happening on a paradoxical loop for the rest of eternity. But they persevered. There were even some brand new attempts that they didn't bank on, like the one he was currently typing up, the one that took place outside the nightclub. So far, he had typed up over 72,000 field reports that contained a murder attempt, many of which had been neutralised without the first man noticing. But Gavin couldn't help thinking you'd have to be a bit dense not to notice a war going on under your feet. completely missing the point of the clandestine nature of his employee's work. Still, the excitement of today being the last day of the mission was seeing him through. He could then take it easy, and when the boss's second in command got back to base, they would see what a good job he had done and release him. Gavin glanced up at the mission clock. In the field, it was 11:22 p.m. on the 4th of October 2002. Just 38 minutes and it was all over. A sense of relief filtered through Gavin like a man who'd had a bad year looks forward to midnight on New Year's Eve. The Bureau had a 100% success rating in the field, so the last part of the mission was a formality. An unfamiliar ding sound on his computer made Gavin look up from his paperwork to check what had happened. Finally, the results of the deep background check he started were in. He almost didn't open it, as something at this late stage couldn't be that important. He saw the subject line, urgent, new information uncovered, report to head, immediately. Still, he didn't expect much as he glanced over the message. He took a slug of coffee as he read. He wasn't even one paragraph in when he saw the worst of it. He was mid-sip of coffee when he froze. Liquid started pouring out the sides of his mouth, and he was rooted to the spot in disbelief. He put the cup down and dabbed the spilled coffee with a paper towel, the majority of which landed on the crotch of his suit trousers. How could this have happened? Why now? Sure, he'd heard the rumours, but they were just rumours. He tried to get the boss on her phone at her office in the field. No answer. He checked the timetable. At this point she was on the roof, unable to read the info he had to send. Damn it. He sent a message to her wrist comms device. He had pointed out before the mission began that it seemed unfair that he was on punishment duty for use of anachronistic clothing and tech when the boss essentially gets a smartwatch in her mission 16 years before they're invented. He was told that the circumstances were different. As the mission was so important, she needed to be connected to HQ at all times, plus a watch can be concealed easily in the field. And also, he was told many times that unlike Gavin, the boss isn't a twat. He sent a message to her watch. Urgent, new intelligence gathered, log on needed. He estimated by the time she got the message, she would still have enough time to act on it. It can't be that bad. I mean, if it were, the red alert bulb would be flashing. If that was on, it'd be pretty much good night Vienna. What Gavin didn't realise was, it would be flashing right now. If somebody had changed the bulb.